The Giants are not replacing Dexter Lawrence with one player, and that is exactly what nobody is seeing. They are building something bigger. This is not random free agency shopping. This is not Joe Schoen grabbing veteran defensive tackles because the depth chart looks thin. This is John Harbaugh rebuilding the New York Giants from the inside out, one trench piece at a time. Shelby Harris is in. Leki Fotu is in. Reports still say the Giants are very much in the mix for DJ Reader. And after missing out on Calais Campbell, the pressure around Reader just got louder. That matters because this is not about names alone. It is about identity. After the Dexter Lawrence trade, fans had every right to ask one question. Did Big Blue just lose its defensive soul? I think the answer is no. I think Harbaugh is building a different monster. And when you connect the dots, this is bully ball in real time. Let's be honest about where things stand. The holes are clear, and they are not small. The Giants traded Dexter Lawrence, and that created a massive interior problem. You do not move a player like that and simply pretend the defensive line is fine. You do not talk about toughness while leaving the middle of the defense uncertain. The interior needed bodies. It needed weight. It needed veteran discipline. It needed players who can survive ugly run downs and keep the defense from getting walked backward. This is where it gets real. The Giants could not enter the season with a defensive front built on hope. Hope does not stop power runs. Hope does not collapse pockets. Hope does not keep linebackers clean. Hope does not protect Jaxson Dart from playing desperate football every week. If the defense cannot get off the field, Dart gets dragged into shootouts. If Dart gets dragged into shootouts, the entire Harbaugh plan starts cracking. A young starting quarterback needs structure around him. He needs field position. He needs a defense that can keep games controlled. The defensive line was also missing certainty. Harris helps, but he does not erase every question by himself. Fotu helps, but he is not the full answer alone. Calais Campbell coming off the board removes another possible veteran solution. That overlay is the issue in plain English. Size without depth is fragile. Depth without identity is just a list of names. Identity without execution is empty talk. And after the Lawrence trade, the Giants had all three problems staring them in the face. They needed more than a signing. They needed a plan. And that brings us to what just happened. The headline is DJ Reader, because he is the name that can change the entire defensive line conversation. Reports say the Giants remain very much in the mix for Reader. That phrase has real weight. It does not mean the deal is done. It does not mean fans should start printing jerseys. But it does mean Big Blue is still alive in the pursuit. And that matters because Reader is not just another rumor floating around the internet. He is the next domino in a very specific roster plan. The Giants already added Shelby Harris and Leki Fotu. They already missed out on Calais Campbell. They already created a major interior question by trading Dexter Lawrence. So the real question is not whether Reader would be interesting. The real question is whether Reader is the piece that turns this from damage control into design. Here is the emotional translation. When a team is still in the mix after already adding 2 defensive tackles, it means the front office does not think the job is finished. It means Harbaugh and Schoen are still hunting for a bigger answer. That is the part nobody is talking about. If the Giants were only trying to patch the roster, Harris and Fotu might have been enough. Add 2 veterans, fill the room, move on. But staying connected to Reader tells me something different. It tells me Harbaugh wants a front that can rotate, absorb punishment, and dictate terms. It tells me the Giants are not satisfied with being passable. They want to be difficult. This is not cosmetic. This is foundation work. And I love that, because Giants football is not supposed to be soft. The New York Football Giants are supposed to make opponents feel the line of scrimmage. They are supposed to make run games uncomfortable. They are supposed to make quarterbacks feel bodies closing in before the ball comes out. Reader would not be a shiny luxury. He would be a statement. Now, let's be fair. This is still a pursuit. The Giants have not landed him in this brief. That matters. We do not treat interest like completion. But if they do finish it, everything looks different. Harris becomes part of the rotation instead of the entire answer. Fotu becomes another body in a bigger plan instead of a lonely patch. Reader becomes the piece that makes the structure feel legitimate. That is why this rumor has more than meets the eye. It is not just, can the Giants sign DJ Reader? It is, are the Giants serious enough to finish what they started? And when you see what they already did with Harris and Fotu, the Reader chase starts to make even more sense. Reader is the suspense piece, but Shelby Harris and Leki Fotu are the proof that this plan has already started. The Giants did not just talk about needing help. They moved. They added Harris. They added Fotu. And that matters because Harbaugh's version of bully ball cannot be built with thin rotations and wishful thinking. A tough defense needs bodies that can play hard without wearing down. That is why these additions matter more than the average fan might think. Harris brings veteran presence to the defensive line room. Fotu gives the Giants another interior body with size and trench experience. Neither move needs to be sold as a superstar signing. That would be the wrong way to read it. The better way to read it is this. The Giants are raising the floor. That overlay matters because rotation depth is how physical teams survive long games. It means the Giants are trying to avoid relying on one player to solve every snap. It means Harbaugh wants fresh bodies, different looks, and fewer soft spots. And this is where the whole picture starts to make sense. The Dexter Lawrence trade left fans looking for a one-for-one replacement. I get it. That is natural. When a major player leaves, everyone asks who fills that exact role. But Harbaugh may not be thinking that way. He may be replacing the model, not the man. A Lawrence-centered front is built around a dominant centerpiece. A Harbaugh front can be built around waves. More bodies, more rotation, more ugly snaps, more trench warfare, more ways to keep opponents from finding one easy matchup. That does not mean Lawrence was not great. He was great. It means this staff may want a different structure. And missing out on Calais Campbell makes the Harris and Fotu moves even more important. Campbell would have been another veteran piece with a Harbaugh connection. Once that door closed, the Giants could not afford to drift. They needed to stay aggressive. That is why the Reader pursuit still matters. Harris and Fotu help stabilize the room. Reader could change the ceiling of the room. This is about restoring fear. Not hype. Not empty slogans. Fear. The kind of front where offensive coordinators spend the whole week asking, who do we double? Who do we slide toward? And how do we avoid getting bullied inside? And when you combine that defensive rebuild with the reality of Jaxson Dart, everything clicks. The defensive line rebuild is directly connected to Jaxson Dart, and that is the piece casual fans might miss. Dart is the Giants' starting quarterback. That means every major roster decision has to be judged by one question. Does this help the team win around him? A stronger defensive line absolutely does. If the Giants stop the run better, Dart gets better game scripts. If the defense creates longer downs, Dart gets more manageable possessions. If Harbaugh can shorten games, control tempo, and win field position, Dart does not have to carry the entire franchise every Sunday. That overlay is the emotional translation. Protecting a quarterback is not only about offensive tackles. It is about the whole team making his job less chaotic. That is why Reader matters. That is why Harris matters. That is why Fotu matters. And that is why the Calais Campbell miss matters too. Every veteran defensive line option tells us how committed the Giants are to building the support system around their quarterback. This is complementary football. This is not fantasy football roster building. This is not chasing the biggest name for the sake of winning social media. This is about creating a team identity that travels in the NFC East. Run the ball. Stop the run. Keep the quarterback out of panic mode. Make opponents earn every yard. That is Harbaugh's football. And when you connect the dots, this is not a coincidence. The Giants are trying to become heavier in the places that matter most. They are trying to make the game simpler for Dart and harder for everybody else. The defense is not separate from the offense. The defensive line is part of the quarterback plan. That is the master plan hiding in plain sight. Hot take. If the Giants sign DJ Reader, this defensive line rebuild becomes the smartest move of the Harbaugh era so far. And I am not backing down from that. Not the flashiest move. The smartest move. Because it would prove the Giants are not panicking after the Dexter Lawrence trade. It would prove they had a structure in mind. Harris and Fotu would not look like isolated patches. Reader would make them look like setup moves. Here is my prediction. If Reader joins this rotation, the Giants finish with a top 10 run defense this season. I am putting that on record. That ranking would mean the Giants are no longer getting bullied in the exact area Harbaugh was hired to fix. It would mean bully ball is real, not just branding. If I am wrong, I will come back to this video and own it. But I do not think I am wrong. And here is the player take that will split the fan base. Dexter Lawrence was a monster, but the Giants can still build a better total defensive front without him if the rotation is deeper, nastier, and more sustainable. Some fans will hate that. I get it. But football is not about nostalgia. It is about structure. Reader is the swing piece. If Big Blue lands him, the plan becomes dangerous. Big Blue is back at the table, and this time, the plan is being built in the trenches. The Giants added Shelby Harris. They added Leki Fotu. They stayed in the DJ Reader conversation. They missed on Calais Campbell, but they did not stop chasing veteran toughness. That tells me John Harbaugh is not just talking about identity. He is forcing the roster to match it. This is the reset this franchise needed. Giants fans, honest answer. If the G-Men land reader next, are you ready to admit the Dexter Lawrence trade was part of a real plan? Or are you still calling it a mistake no matter what? Pick a side in the comments. If you are riding with Big Blue through the Harbaugh rebuild, you know where that subscribe button is. We break down every move, every rumor, and every shift in philosophy right here. Go Big Blue.